of corporate Democrats on the Rules Committee going into the summer and going into the Democratic convention. It's going to be some. It's going to be quite something. So everybody, State of the Union address. I think I gave you those headlines you saw when President Trump walked down. He refused to shake Speaker Pelosi's hand. I have to tell you, that stunned me. And I was hurt by that because I thought it was just inappropriate
Right.
and unnecessary. But then when I saw her tear up his speech at the end, I didn't really like that. I just want everybody to elevate. Let's not make these, however angry you are,
Thank you.
now, however angered you are by someone's position or their nastiness, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you go in the room, let the expletives fly.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in public, because we're talking to the children now, we're trying to tell them how to behave, and we're also needing to elevate our conversation when we interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to learn to disagree without being disagreeable.
Thank
We have to
you.
learn to listen to each other, and we're not doing that. But I just, as the president, the most powerful human being on earth, at least he's holding the most powerful, he's in the most powerful seat. For him not to shake her hand, I just was so disappointed. But there were so many things that happened, and so we're going to bring up Bill Press in just a hot second. And today, by tomorrow, we might have 3 inches of snow on the ground here in
Yes.
Chicago. Okay, high of 30 degrees today. The Blackhawks will be playing the Boston Bruins tonight at 7 o'clock. Now we're getting ready for this, for the NBA All-Star Week next week. I'm so excited, and you're going to be coming to the fundraiser that Rainbow Push is going to be having with Shaquille O'Neal. He will be the headliner at the Soldier Field. Soldier Field has like banquet rooms and whatnot inside, and that's where we're going to be. We're going to be talking more about that as we move toward that. Yesterday was they rallied up the stock market. The Dow was up 407 points, and Nasdaq was up 194 points. The S&P was up 48 points. I just don't want to delay this anymore. Call us at 773 WCPT, 773 We're going to bring on now the legendary Bill Press. Wait a minute, give him his applause. We love him so much. Bring it up. Yes. All of that. Amen. Welcome. Welcome to your show, Bill Press. How are you? Don't laugh at me.
Before, so
Oh, but
and I was there, right there where you're sitting on WCPT. Nobody ever applauded then. See, it's nice to be back.
see, you always needed me. But see, I have to say this, as we go into the show. I've watched you down through the years, doing all of the big television shows, and I've listened to you on the big radio shows, taking the progressive position, and you would hold to that position even in the face of formidable opposition. But you'd walk in and you'd make me proud. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for really standing up for people who've been marginalized. And you've done that for so long, and you've dedicated your life to it. And I just really, I have to say thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
It's very kind of you. But number one, because that's what I believe. That's the way I was brought up with, the values that I was brought up with. And number two, you and I are right on these issues, and we're not going to back down. And number three, I'm still at it, and so are you, right? And that's so important that we just keep standing up for the rights and opportunities of every single American to really enjoy fully the American dream. We don't back down, and we fight for what's right. So I join you in that battle now with my podcast, right? The Bill Press Pod, that people can find anywhere they go to their podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm there with the Bill Press Pod, and joining you this morning. It's fun to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And of course, we have you up on WCPT 820 so that people can hear the Bill Press Pod. In fact, when you go on Twitter, at Bill Press Pod, so you can find out all the things that you're talking about. Let me start off. I don't even know where to begin because I've got whiplash, Bill Press. Every day there's some. Oh, well, where do you want to begin? Do you want to begin with the State of the Union address and the madness of all of that, or do you want to start with Iowa?
Well, let's start with the State of the Union because, I mean, I have to tell you, I don't know about you. Here's my thought. I did not see a State of the Union address last night. I can't imagine, uh, forget Thomas Jefferson, I can't imagine George W. Bush, certainly not a Barack Obama. I can't imagine a Ronald Reagan giving a State of the Union, a so-called State of the Union like we saw last night. I mean, I don't think we saw a State of the Union address. I think we saw half of it was a political rally, a re-election rally. They
Mm-hmm.
started chanting 4 more years in the first minute he was up there, and the other half was a pure political I mean, a television reality show where P.T.
Mm-hmm.
Barnum, with the orange hair, pulls all these acts out of his hat, right, in the gallery, some of which were moving, but none of which really addressed the state of the union and told us where we are or what we should be doing. I was really disgusted by the whole performance, and I must tell, and then I guess the third part of it, maybe it's one third, one third, one third, was just a string of lies. I mean, let me just start with the one. He started, like the first words out of his mouth, I have my notes here, he said, the years of economic decay are over.
Yeah.
And let's remember, Barack Obama took over the White House when we were hemorrhaging 800,000 jobs a month
Mm-hmm.
in January 2009. And within a month, he had turned that around, and then we had 8 straight years of economic recovery every month, creating over 100,000, some 2,000, 200,000, 300,000 jobs. 8 straight years. I was there at the White House every day. I know. I covered it. I wrote those stories. And Rush Limbaugh inherited an economy that was, I wouldn't say booming, but certainly in full recovery, and he's kept it going. Yeah, but to say that economic decay is what he walked into is just one big fat lie. And of course, all the Republicans just jump up like, silly cheerleaders and applaud. I thought it was appalling, the performance, the whole thing, beginning to end. And
Well, let me ask you this, because I didn't mean just even before he started to speak. I tell you, I was stunned when he did not shake Speaker Pelosi's hand.
so was I. I almost fell off the couch. You know, that was a moment where she very graciously, and I heard you just before I came on, uh, uh, um, acknowledge, I mean, this is an awkward moment, and yet this is a time when the entire country, everybody was ready to rise above it for the moment, hear from the president. He comes up, he shakes everybody's hand, he walks up, and she reaches out in the spirit of the moment to shake his hand, and he turned his back on her. I mean, how small can you be, right?
Mm. Well, and that to me, it's very disappointing because I see it on so many levels, Mr. Press. Well, I see the well, as I'm going to work on that because I've seen you, I've seen you, to fully disclose, I've seen you with my father for years, and I just think the world of you. And if my mother tunes in very early and she hears me calling you by your first name, she might give me the business. So I'm going to try. I'm going to work on it. But you,
You're from another mother, right?
yes, yes, absolutely. I'm wondering, the lesson that this sends to children. We've seen so many micro and macro aggressions in this period because people feel that it's okay to say anything to anyone, to be unkind to people. I'm also wondering, how this impacts, how people are interacting with each other in the legislature. As you know, my brother was in Congress for almost 20 years, and things were beginning to get heated when he was there. And I mean, like personally heated in the cloakroom where people could almost come to blows. Now, mind you, we've had a history of that in this country. I mean, things are not always elevated, in terms of our interactions. But I'm wondering what kind of message he was sending, not, I mean, to his supporters. I don't want to call him his base because he got more than 60 million votes. He has more than a base. He's got a chunk of votes. Not as many as Hillary, but a chunk of votes.
Well, the message is that, which, by the way, you and I think have fought against all of our lives in politics. I have, but is the opposite. It's the opposite message. His message is it's all personal, and that's why he tweets personal attacks against Nancy Pelosi, against Adam Schiff, against Jerry Nadler, a lot of those people sitting in front of him. For him, it's all personal. It's all driven by hatred, and it's not driven by really working together for what's best in this country. My last podcast interview was with a great Senator Tom Daschle. And Tom Daschle and I talked about this very issue, that think about this, during the Clinton impeachment hearing, Tom Daschle was the Democratic leader. Trent Lott was the majority leader, right? He called Trent Lott, called Tom Daschle, and he said, we've got to do this trial, and I wanted to do it together, and I want it to be right. And Trent Lott and Tom Daschle spent a month working out a set of rules so that both sides felt everything was fair, everything was going to be open, justice was going to be done. They spent a month working those rules. Can you imagine that happening today? Mitch McConnell never once called Chuck Schumer and said, how are we going to work this out together? So that is the spirit, that ugliness, if you will, and that divide, partisan divide, is what Rush Limbaugh, thank you, I'll mention him later, but Donald Trump specializes in. And that's the message he's sending, and it's wrong, 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 and it's not good for America.
But Bill Press, what changed? What changed between then and now? It's only 20 years.
I'll tell you, I've talked to a lot of members of Republicans and Democrats in the Congress, and what a lot of them tell me is what changed is Rush Limbaugh. I keep saying Rush Limbaugh because I'm so upset about his getting it. Sorry. What changed was Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich came in, and Newt Gingrich says, don't you dare work with Democrats. This is open war. It's a full-time election. And Rush Limbaugh, here I go again. I'm going to talk to Rush so I get it off my mind. But Newt Gingrich put out a list of words to his Republican members, and he said, these are the words like patriotic, loyal, flag that you use when you're talking about Republicans. And these are the words traitor, lazy, dishonest you use when you talk about Democrats. And that started it, and it's still going on.
Everybody, we're talking with Bill Press, the legendary Bill Press. Yes, that Bill Press. He is with us today as we're talking about the state of the union, really the state of our union, not just the state of the government, the state of our union. You saw the speech last night. You saw the back and forth between the president and Speaker Pelosi. Started with the president when he walked in and turned his back on her as she extended her hand to him. What did that say to you? How did that make you feel? What did you think? And then she tore up his speech at the end. Gotta say, I wasn't feeling that either. I want everybody to elevate. We've got to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. But what happened in between? What truths were told? What untruths were spread so much? And it really was a campaign rally. And I do want you to speak about Rush Limbaugh when we get back on the other side. I have my absolutely have my political disagreements with him, but I was so saddened to hear about his illness, and I couldn't help but think that the president gave him his Medal of Freedom because he is quite ill. And so my prayers go out to him on that. But he has really helped to shape the conversation, and it has gotten ugly. It has gotten so ugly. And it's unnecessary. As Americans, we need to come together and pull our country together. We are not seeing unparalleled economic prosperity. All you have to do is walk around, take a train through the United States, drive through America. You will see how Americans are living. You will really understand that people can't afford to go to the hospital. People cannot afford to get health care. Our public school systems are being collapsed. And giving a scholarship to a young black girl so that she could have school choice instead of putting money back into the public school system, because that is not what our Secretary of Education is trying to do. She's pulling money out of the public school system. And by the way, her charter schools up in Michigan are the worst schools in the state. So let's talk about that here on the Santita Jackson Show, which was the Bill Press Show, and it shall always be that. I just do this in his honor. On WCPT 820, call us at 773-763-WCPT, and meet me on my YouTube page, The Santita Jackson Show. That's right. Keep on smiling, Cortez. You get very excited when I do that, and like and subscribe. And then, of course, everybody wants to be on Facebook, too. Santita Jackson and Friends. Like and share. Like and share, everybody. Let's talk about the State of the Union, and then in the next hour, we're going to talk about what really happened in Iowa. What really happened. Who is Shadow? Who are they? Who are they? Talking with Bill Press on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. So honored. I'm just jumping up and down inside. I'm so excited to have Bill Press, who sat in this seat for so many years. But we haven't lost Bill Press. He has a wonderful podcast,
Hmm.
Bill Press Pod. Please, everybody, go to Twitter so that you can follow him. But go to his podcast. You have got to hear what he says, how he weighs in on these issues, what he's got to say. We're coming to you, of course, from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. And I'm on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. So please like and subscribe on YouTube and like and share over here on Facebook. As we're talking about the State of the Union, and we're going to get into Iowa and all of that with Bill Press, and I know, my phone lines are full. Bill Press, because everybody wants to talk with you. But before I release you, because I'm holding on to you myself, I'm being selfish. What what you, it's very interesting because I'm wondering if uh, if the Rush Limbaughs, uh, if the Newt Gingriches have any regrets. I remember when Lee Atwater, you know, when he was dying, he called Ron Brown, who was becoming the head of the Democratic National Committee, called him to apologize for anything that he had done that could have been offended, that could have offended him. And people start making their peace. Hubert Humphrey did the same thing as he was making his transition. And I was watching C-SPAN a couple of months ago, and Newt Gingrich's daughter has written a book on civility in politics. And I said, wow. Well, I mean, I was glad to see it, although I was a little surprised, but you never know. Um, what does this incivility, this is mean spiritedness, what does this do to us as a people?
Well, Santita, first of all, again, it's wonderful to be with you this morning. But one, it prevents us from getting, it divides us as a nation. It brings out, I believe, and underscores the very worst angels of our nature rather than the best angels of our nature, which Abraham Lincoln, of course, said we should be all about. And three, very practically, it prevents us from getting done. When people are, when both sides in Congress, when there's open warfare 24/7, year in, year out, um, look what's happening with Congress. They're not getting anything done. It's not that they're doing the wrong thing. They're doing absolutely nothing. In 3 years, one thing has happened through the legislature, the Congress, under Donald Trump, and that's a big fat tax cut for the wealthiest of Americans. So they're not working together. They're not solving problems. They're not doing the work that we elected them to do. And so this country is basically at a standstill because of that kind of attitude. Having said that, I've got to say a word about Rush Limbaugh, okay? Because I think this was the greatest, if I may.
Mm.
It's your show.
No, it's you. Look, come on. This is the Bill Press show. I'm just sitting in this seat.
But because this so offended me, you and I are radio talk show hosts. I love talk radio. I've made a career of talk radio. For years in Los Angeles, I followed Rush Limbaugh on KFI in Los Angeles. And I can tell you, I felt like the man behind the elephant who had to sweep up the elephant crap every day because nobody has spewed more hatred and more divisive talk on radio across this country over the years than Rush Limbaugh. He is the voice of racism, the face of racism on talk radio. I mean, this is the man who promoted the birther movement that Barack Obama wasn't born in America. He's a man who accused Michael J. Fox of faking it. He's a man who called women activists, right, feminazis. He's always been out there as expressing hatred for people of color, for women, for the disabled. And yesterday was Rosa Parks Day, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And on Rosa Parks Day, Donald Trump gives him, Rush Limbaugh, the Medal of Freedom, the same Medal of Freedom which Rosa Parks earned and got, and Jackie Robinson earned and got. And I mean, to me, it was an insult to all Americans and basically a triumph for the ugliest part of the right-wing Republican movement that Rush Limbaugh represents them all. I think it was just disgusting. And just one final point. Think about this. In the same room is a Tuskegee Airman, God bless him, and Rush Limbaugh. And which one goes home with the Medal of Freedom? Not the one who should have gone home with the Medal of Freedom. And to use the State of the Union, like you, I pray for Rush Limbaugh. I'm sorry he has advanced lung cancer, and I don't wish that we wouldn't wish that of anybody. But to use that occasion of the State of the Union to give this man who has again been the apostle of hatred in this country for so many years, to give him a Medal of Freedom, I think cheapens the Medal of Freedom, cheapens the presidency, and it's just a disgrace.
But it seems like so. Yeah. Oh no! Please continue. Please continue.
Okay. Having said that, I got it off my chest. But boy, that was to me the worst moment of the night.
Well, what? I feel like we're having a very honest moment in America. Because when people say, Donald Trump, I can't believe it, I'm like, no, 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 no. This is a country that started off that gave oligarchs the right to vote, and that was it. Or just men who had money. Women couldn't vote. You had indentured servants who were white. You had people. We then moved into racialized slavery. I mean, we're an evolving people, and I'm totally feeling that. I'm just wondering where we're all going from here. Because when I walked away from the State of the Union address last night, I was trying to figure out, what's the end game here? What are we? Because we're now in 2020. What should we then be pushing for? What should we then be fighting for? Because last night to me he was kicking off his 2020 presidential campaign.
Well, that's funny. Not to trivialize it, but I thought, to me, I came away from that with two goals for 2020. One is that this will be the very last time we have to put up with the absurd caucus system in Iowa,
Yes.
the absurd circus called the Iowa caucuses. Never, never again. Number one goal for 2020. And number two goal is that this is the last State of the Union address by Donald Trump that we will ever have to sit through because we get rid of him in 2020. So those are my two goals for 2020. I'm not sure they're the most two elevated goals of the moment, right, or to come out of the State of the Union, but we haven't talked about Iowa. What an embarrassment. What a disgrace. By the way, I'll just say one other thing. I also remember some of the ugly things that Rush Limbaugh said about your father. And, I love your father. And he's such a great American and had such a great impact on this country and on.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Look, I lived through it.
Rush Limbaugh's attacks. You did.
Oh.
His attacks on your father were just demeaning, disgusting, and unacceptable. So, but back to Iowa, it's for so long. When I was Democratic chair of California at one time, I was a member of the DNC. That was 25 years ago, and I voted to take the caucuses away from Iowa and the first primary away from New Hampshire, and said, let's have a contest that really looks like America. And Iowa does not. And the caucuses are not democratic.
Well, wait,
they don't encourage.
Hold on. I need you, no, don't apologize. I need you to say that one more time. Because that caucus system is like the bane of my electoral existence. I just think it's horrible. Would you explain to people what is it?
Well, here's why it's horrible. Number one, you have to go there for, first of all, it's undemocratic, right? Mm-hmm. It is unaccountable, if you will. You have to go to this caucus and you have to physically go to the caucus. So if you got a job, if you have to pay for child care, or you're a veteran, or and you're serving in the military somewhere, for some reason you can't get to that caucus, you can't vote. That's why it's so undemocratic. You've got to go there for an average of 2 hours. It's not a secret ballot. You have to stand up and say, I'm going to vote for so-and-so. And if you don't have enough people there who support your guy, 50, whatever number of people there is, depending on how many people total show up, and you have to go to somebody else. You can't vote for the person that you think is the best person to be the President of the United States.
Is that crazy? That's crazy.
And if you are, if you want to stay like uncommitted, then your vote doesn't count. at all. And then now top it all off, they can't even count the damn votes. Right here we are, more than 24 hours. What? I mean, it's insane. And I just once and for all, let's just. So the two things. Iowa, number one. I think the average African American population in the United States is about 15% or whatever. In Iowa, it's 3%.
But wait a minute. But hold on. We make up 20%, 26% of the prison population. Hello. Yeah, that's another story. That's an Iowa story too.
Yeah, that's right. And there's not one city of over 250,000 people in the entire state of Iowa. I mean, it's just so
It's crazy.
unrepresentative of this country. And I know. So again, I voted to take it away, and the Democratic Party has just. There's something about they promised Iowa that you could be first as long as you had a caucus. I heard you say that earlier. And New Hampshire said we're first as long as we have a primary. And the Democratic Party has always gone along with that. And damn it, now it is time once and for all to say, enough, no more, no more.
Well, I'm gonna go. I know, I'm gonna go to the callers, but you know what? I think you're just too much of a lefty, too left coast. I mean, come on, the California chair of the Democrats, they were not going to listen to you. I'm sorry, I love you, but that was not going to happen.
I didn't say California should be number one.
I know, I'm just having fun with you, but you know, in the rest of the country, you just come on, you lefty, shame on you, shame.
Sure, I'm proud of it.
Let me go to James. How you doing, James from River Grove?
Good morning, Santita. Good morning, Bill. Good to hear you on WCPT again.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Thank you. To your point earlier, Santita, as far as, really quickly, as far as economics and whether or not people are really benefiting from this economy, all you have to do is drive to the south side of Chicago and see huge apartment building after apartment building, boarded up, businesses boarded up, to know that it's not working for everybody. Now, my point on the State of the Union, I really did, I kind of, too, was hurt seeing him turn his back on Nancy Pelosi. I said something to my wife. She kind of said, "Are you surprised?" And at that moment, I was, but I wasn't. I was stuck in this kind of purgatory of emotion at that point. But I really did believe that it was the right thing for her to do, to rip up that speech. To me, it was a protest. It was a repudiation of all the lies of all the Republican senators that clapped after each lie, and a repudiation of the kabuki theater that has become the executive branch.
Well, thank you so much, James. He called it the Kabuki Theater. Oh my goodness. Verlon, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Santita? How you doing, Bill? Okay.
Hey, good to talk to you. Hi.
All right. Well, what I see is, first off, I want to send well wishes to Rush Limbaugh and his family. He's a true patriot, and he's the embodiment of the conservative movement. We probably wouldn't even be here as far as we've came if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh.
You're right, but I just mean that in a. I'm regretful though. I hear you, but go on, Verlon.
What I saw was impetulant children sitting on their hands and booing this president. And if it wasn't for a cause that they stood for, they had frowns on their face and they was looking down. And I forget one of the sentences. He was looking like he was going to sleep. Cullerton or one of them. And then Nancy Pelosi, all she did was look down until he said something that she stood up for maybe 3 times. I saw partisanship, just like I've always said on your show. Everything is totally partisan. But he put on the greatest show that you could put on in politics in a State of the Union. I didn't think he could pull a rabbit out of his hat, but every time his back is against the wall, he pulls a rabbit out of his hat.
Well, Verlon, hold on. Let me ask you this. I mean, because, you sound to be, a nice gentleman. Do you think that it was? Well, how did you react to him turning his back on Nancy Pelosi, on Speaker Pelosi, when she extended her hand to him to shake? Do you think that he was correct to turn his back on her?
It was to be expected because he's
No, no,
been.
no, 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 no. I didn't ask you that. Do you think that was correct? See, I thought that no, because I thought it was rude, it was vulgar, and it was so it was just not fitting of a president, and certainly not of a gentleman. I thought it was rude and nasty, and it sent a horrible signal. It sent a horrible signal to boys and girls, to human beings. I thought it was horrible. It was horrible. But you stay right there, Mr. Bill Press. Please jump in with Verlon.
No, I just want to say the same thing. You made a very important point. This was the House of Representatives. The Speaker is the head of the House of Representatives. It is her job to invite the President to give the State of the Union, which she did. And rightfully so, he comes, in effect, as her guest to her house, and he refuses to shake her hand. It would be like if you or I, Santita, were invited to the White House to a reception, and we're in line with the President of the United States, and it's his house, and to refuse to shake his hand would be considered rude and offensive and un-American, and I think that's exactly the same thing with Donald Trump refusing to shake her hand.
Verlon, very quickly, your concluding thought.
Oh, thank you. Well, I felt that it was human because if somebody bullied you like all school year or bullied you throughout your life, and then after that they reach their hand out to shake your hand, yeah, you would snub them. I would snub them.
Whoa, Yvonne. There was one bully in that room last night. One big bully who tweets 140 times a day, bullying other people, and he was at the podium. She made the gesture. Despite that, some of the things that he has said about her on Twitter are just absolutely vile. And yet she reached out to shake his hand in the spirit of Americanship, if you will, or working together, or humanity, and he turned his back on her.
It was so. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't justify that.
No, cannot justify. By the way, I agree with you, Santita. I wish Nancy Pelosi had not ripped up the speech. I wish she'd waited until the cameras were off.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, Bill Press, when the cameras are off, do whatever you want. I mean, I said let the expletives fly. Really. Say what you need to say, because when we close the door, then you say this so and so, because this is the way it works. But I'm thinking of yes.
The reason I really don't like it is because it gives Trump and the other side so much ammunition. You know, that's gone viral. They'll use it. They'll say this shows Nancy Pelosi is just full of hatred. And you know, as she said when that reporter asked her the question, "Why do you hate Donald Trump?" Right? There is not a scintilla of hate in her body. She's just there to do the job for the American people. But that ripping up the speech from that will be used against her, against all of us, and it's just unfortunate. But
well, you know, can you stay with me a little longer today? Just a little. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I've got you in a bear hug. I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. See, do I sound crazy? Yes, I do. Let me go to Chaparral. Chaparral, what's on your mind?
Thank you so much for taking my call, and good morning, Mr. Press. Let me tell you, I listened to this speech, and I was actually cringing the whole entire time. I was live tweeting, and I was just like, you know, what universe is he in? Because I tweeted out that this is the tale of two different countries, because the country that he thinks he's ruling and that he sees in America is not the reality of the 90% of what's happening in America. And I was so offended that he didn't mention any of the fallen soldiers that got killed recently. We had 3 in Chicago since August. We had Henry Mayfield, we had Miguel Villalon, and also Michael Nance that died in Chicago. Where are their parents? You know, it's nice to bring a soldier home, but we want to bring them home alive. And we had some people who died and we've never got an acknowledgement. I haven't heard him say anything publicly on TV, and these are because he actually caused more conflict over in the area where these soldiers were. And then to give the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh,
Woohoo!
who spewed hate the entire time that he was on the air, and he does. I don't see any good that Rush Limbaugh did.
Oh, look, wait a minute. No, you want to know why I'm offended? Bill Press, Reverend Jackson has a Presidential Medal of Freedom. I'm like, really? But when you really know how they award those things, it's not like the president sits down and with all these erudite people. It's almost like a staff decision. Bill Press. I think people would be shocked. But the fact that he has one, what did you say, given to him on Rosa Parks' 107th birthday, Black History Month. I mean, what? But please. Uh, Chaparral, your last, you about 30 seconds. Well, I want you and Mr. Press to interact.
I just
Well,
wanted, I
the
was
last
just,
thing that I have
like, go ahead, Chappelle. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying the last thing that I have to say is that, when he talked about the little girl being ill and I said, well, we had universal health care. She wouldn't have to be going through all this. We wouldn't have to need $50 million. And he's talking about how he wants to change the infrastructure. I'm like, McConnell has 400 plus bills sitting on his desk. Tell him to sign them. Prescription drugs, everything that can satisfy the country, they're sitting on McConnell's desk. Make him do some work, and then you wouldn't even have to do a speech. I just thought everything that he was saying about the economy, especially the unemployment numbers and everything, I'm like, you're not even counting the people who are no longer can be counted on unemployment. So all of those numbers are false. And I hate that any president talks about unemployment numbers. And I'm just like, people keep it real. He is not who he said he is, and I just wish the Democrats would have not even shown up. He should have had half a session with only Republicans. Every Democrat should have, because we know what's going to happen today. He's going to be acquitted, so they shouldn't even give him the dignity of being in the audience.
Oh, but I think you need to give powerful witness. I hear you. I hear you, but you got to give powerful witness. You need to be there. You need to be there. You need to be there. And then what the Democrats need to march out and do, and the last 30 seconds I'm going to give to you, Bill Press, they need to go on and launch a real voter registration campaign. Okay?
Well, absolutely. Democrats have to be as motivated, even more motivated in 2020 than we were in 2018, and is in every single state. And I really do believe, I talked to so many people who agree with this, we survived 4 years. We will survive 4 years of Donald Trump. This republic and our basic institutions, our democracy, cannot survive 8 years of Donald Trump. Everything is on the line, and we've got to be part of that problem. We just can't stand on the sidelines and watch it happen. We have to make it happen. And boy, if there's any motivation that we needed, I think we got it last night watching that so-called State of the Union. The last caller said it was like watching somebody, two different countries. I thought it was watching somebody who's lived on a different planet. Planet as Donald Trump. And Santita, I love you, and it's so great to join you. And how about all our good friends at WCPT and out in all the Chicago and all the greater Chicago area. And we'll see you all on the Bill Press Pod. How's that?
How about that? And you know what? I can't wait to have you back. Whenever, we're going to call you back in a couple of weeks. No, I mean, because we're in the 2020 season. Yeah. We're in the 2020 season, and I want the audience wants to hear from you. How can we get the Bill Press Pod?
You go to anywhere you get a podcast, anywhere you listen to a podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or TuneIn, and you just search for the Bill Press Pod. It'll come up. Click subscribe, and you are in. Then we're together twice a week on the Bill Press Pod.
Mic drop, everybody. The great Bill Press, and we're talking about the State of the Union. I love you, Bill Press, and I think the world of you, and thank you for honoring me in particular, and this audience in general, with your presence. You are a gift. We love you, everybody. Stay right here talking about the State of the Union and the snubs last night and what really happened in Iowa. what really happened? We're about to find out. Kevin Gosztola of Shadow Proof, yes, Shadow Proof, that they took over from Fire Dog Lake. He's going to tell us who the Shadow Company is. They created the app. Who are these people, and what are they doing? I'm going to take all these phone calls, and that's right, Maria and Vicky and Carib Queen. That's Lorraine and Chapearl, and everybody's been weighing in today. But Bedalia, you weighed in too. That's right, Richard Marks, and oh boy, got a lot to talk about on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a few minutes.
Where people up, Chicago. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, 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 everybody. Boy, it was wonderful speaking with Bill Press on the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. We are talking politics today. This is such a great time to be in talk radio. Oh my goodness, I have to give a shout out to my friend George Bliss, who brought me over here. I had no intention of doing talk radio again, ever. Not that I don't love it, but he brought me over here. I did it, and now I'm here. Thank you, Mark Pinsky and George and Matt Cummings, who I've known a long time, but didn't quite know that I knew him. I met him in one context, and then I met him again in another, right? So we're taking a lot of calls, everybody, about the State of the Union address last night. What did you think about it? What did you think about the content? What did you think about the theater of it all? You had the president, as he walked in, Speaker Pelosi shook his hand, or at least she tried to, and then he turned his back on her, he snapped her. Then, as he concluded his speech, she ripped up his speech in full view of the world. What did you think of that? And what did you think of the content? Is this economy, how, President Reagan asked, basically, aren't you doing better with me now? Are you really? Let's talk about that. And then let's talk about Iowa. What really happened in Iowa? What is happening in Iowa? I have to tell you, I don't mind waiting a few days to get an accurate count. But what I do mind is an app that was not vetted, that was not tested statewide, that the Democratic National Committee wanted the Iowa State Committee to keep secret, that totally botched this, and I'm just trying to figure out where these votes are. And I think the whole caucus system is it's just not democratic, lowercase d. It's really not. So we want to know what really happened in Iowa, and who developed this app, and why did the Democratic National Committee want their identities to be kept secret? Who are they? What's going on here? What? All right. So I got to put all this out here. I have to ask these questions on the Santita Jackson Show, right? The coronavirus. Well, it's surging. I told you I have one of my godchildren is over it. She's studying and working over in China, and we told her to get back here, and she didn't come back. I'm gonna be here another week. Now she can't leave. Ugh, unbelievable. But let's talk about Iowa. So far, of course, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, he is still leading in the delegate count, but Bernie Sanders is still leading in the vote count. So what does that mean? What does it mean? Because how do we come up with all of this anyway? How do we come up with all of this? Satellite locations. I just want to know what you think about all of this. And we might have 3 inches of snow on the ground by the time we get back here tomorrow, Lady B. We're going to get some snow today, 30 degrees, high of that today. And the Blackhawks will be playing the Boston Bruins tonight. And the Dow was up 407 points yesterday. The NASDAQ was up 194 points. The S&P was up 48 points. Good day on the stock market, but do you still have light pockets? Yes. So this whole thing about the economy doing so well, I just don't know. Before I bring on this wonderful journalist to talk about what really happened in Iowa and what's really happening with the Democratic National Committee, I'm going to get a couple of calls in because, of course, we just had Bill Press, the legendary Bill Press, and yes, he is a legend, and I think you have to give people their credit. There's not been a taller tree in this forest, someone who has really held on to his principles, fighting for the least of these. And he's done it in media brilliantly for decades. And of course, Bill Press now has his podcast. So go to Apple, go to Google, go to TuneIn. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can get the Bill Press podcast. It comes out twice a week. You don't want to miss that. So you don't want to miss us. We're having a good time over on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Santita Jackson and Friends. Please like and share, everybody. Like and share. Share this broadcast today. And on YouTube. The Santita Jackson Show. Smile, Cortez. Are you happy? Yes.
Yes.
Please, and please run on over there, everybody, because that really helps us to grow too. Now Facebook, they're reaching out to me. That's right. They're reaching out to me. Are you? Something must have happened. We got another subscriber. So like and subscribe over there on the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Please, please, please do that. But let me get a couple of callers in before I bring on Kevin Gosztola of Shadowproof. Everybody, go to Shadowproof. Shadowproof.com. They do a lot of fantastic work. You have a lot of really great, well, a few really great news aggregation sites, and where these investigative journalists go and they investigate issues and then they come back and give you some really great information. He's one of these persons and he's based here in Chicago. Let me go to, is it Andre? Okay. How are you?
Azalea.
And Azalea?
Azalea.
Is it Azalea? Or is it Azalea?
Azalee. Azalee.
Azalee? And yes, ma'am, Miss Azalee, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And you were talking about somebody brought you over to the, to do the radio. I'm so glad they did.
Bless your heart. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Verlon, I'm sure we all love him, but Verlon told the truth for one side. Just kidding. For once, when he said show, it really was a show because we have a showman for a president.
Yes.
But being president is serious business. We don't need a showman. And so, I hope and pray that the people will wake up and get rid of this showman because we want to save our nation and we want to save democracy. And just one other thing about Nancy Pelosi. Sometimes, when things are so hard on you, you react to it when maybe you wouldn't want to do that. And we have to give people who are going through what they're going through with Trump, we have to give them a little leeway because we might do the same thing if we were in that position.
You're right, ma'am. You know what? Because sometimes, oh, yes, ma'am, because, sometimes, you think she was on a higher perch. Maybe she should have just climbed up there and just jumped down on him. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm having fun, buddy.
I feel for her and for Adam Schiff. I just feel for these people. So I am praying. I hope the real Christians pray about this because sometimes evil is so prevalent that you just can't handle it by yourself. I don't care what you have, what education, whatever, but you just can't do it because it is evil. And I will say this last thing to top it off, what this man did, the president of the United States, to give Rush Limbaugh any kind of medal. He shouldn't have got the dog catch a medal. To do that to America. And this man, Rush Limbaugh, I'm sorry about his, ail, whatever he has, but he has to deal with that. He has to go to God for that. But no, he did not deserve that. And, to put him in the same category as your father. So keep up the good work, Santita. I'm going to stop talking and I could just go on.
Well, I love it, Miss Azalee, and thank you so much. But you know what? I have to tell you. Now, I think America's having a very honest moment. Now we're seeing, I said that in the last hour, now we're seeing how things work. We thought that things were maybe a lot more fair and a lot more clean than they really are. So I thank goodness, I thank God, I will say, for this moment, to be able to live through this moment so that so much could be revealed. So much is being revealed. It's a lot. But you know what? Before we go to some of these other callers, we're going to bring you all in throughout this hour. And of course, we'll stay for a little while after the show, about 10-15 minutes. I want to talk with this young man whose work I've been reading for a minute, but I just met him yesterday over the phone, Kevin Gosztola of Shadowproof. And who are they? He's the managing editor. It's a wonderful site. They investigate stories and they bring the information back to us. A lot of that we don't see right now. So continue to call us even though the lines are busy at 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT, and continue to look at us on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show, and please like and subscribe, and on Facebook, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Like and share. Please like and share this broadcast. We're going to talk about what happened in Iowa, what really happened in Iowa. And when I told my producer that I had found this gentleman, she almost jumped through the phone wires. She said, "Oh, this is going to be hot." Because it really is. I don't think that Americans really object to having to wait for a final vote tally. That can happen. What is really most galling, I think, to so many of us is the lack of transparency. When you find out what you find out, when you find out that this is a group that the Democratic National Committee wanted to keep in secret. Why? Who are they? And what were they doing? How can you have someone whose identity you want to obscure? How can they be the ones who count our votes? Who are these people? What is going on? Well, you know what, Kevin? Gosztola of Shadow Proof, the floor is yours. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for your work. Tell me, what happened on Monday night?
A problem with the Democratic National Committee, this group that runs the Democratic Party, these elites, that people in Chicago might be well familiar, because we've lived through this kind of corruption on, and it involves cronyism. It involves offering contracts to people's friends without giving proper review. And I honestly and very bluntly have to tell people that if that hadn't happened in Iowa, then we probably wouldn't be talking about a disaster right now. We don't have to get technical for people who do not understand how apps work and don't want to get into coding issues, and that doesn't make any sense to them. It's not necessary. What happened was the Iowa State Democratic Party chair, Troy Price, used to work for the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016. He now runs the Iowa State Democratic Party. There were former people from Hillary Clinton's campaign that worked for this company that calls itself Shadow Incorporated, and they made this app. But what they did is they made an app to handle a part of the Iowa caucuses that didn't need an app. We didn't need technology. You can just use paper and pencil. You can tally up people in the caucuses count, and you could submit that information to the Iowa State Democratic Party's headquarters and let them tally up the results like they normally have throughout our history. And they created a process. They made up a reason why they could give someone a contract, a company a contract, and they went out to some people tied with a startup company with some links to Silicon Valley, and they gave them this contract. And then now today I'm talking to you about a mess, a total mess, because at this hour we only have 71% of the vote. We don't really have much transparency. The Iowa State Democratic Party has handled this. Their messaging about what happened has been pretty terrible. They haven't been open with journalists. They haven't been open with Iowans who, the few in Iowa who did go out and participate in the caucuses. And, maybe we're going to talk about why so few participate in caucuses. But the people who did get up and go participate, they're still waiting to find out who they're going to be sending delegates to the Democratic National Convention. Who's going to get them? We don't have a final word at this moment.
Who? Shadow Inc. Who are they?
Yes, so you've got one guy named Gerard, who his past history was working on the volunteer tools and some of the organizer tools that were used to, I imagine, get out the vote, reach people, try to figure out who could support Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign. These people, none of them are what I consider to be nefarious or people who we should be skeptical of necessarily, but what they are people who come from within. They're part of these consultants that are constantly gone to in the Democratic Party, and they're sought after for answers in solving problems, and in this case, solving a problem that did not exist until this round, this cycle. And I do want to add something here that in addressing this Shadow Incorporated, it this app was never tested, and what they say is, the words they say is, it was never tested to scale. That means before the app was used in the Iowa caucuses, they never got enough people. They never ran a test where it simulated what it would be like if the number of people who voted in the Iowa caucuses were using the app. So what you had is people who work in these different precincts in Iowa having trouble even access. They could barely even get their password in to log in. It was rejecting their login so that they could submit. There's an incredible clip from CNN where one of the people who, one of the working people in Iowa has to submit the results of what just happened in their precincts, tell the people at Iowa State Democratic Party headquarters who won the delegates at his location. He waited on the phone on this hotline for over an hour, and he gets there, and then they answer his call, and then he's hung up on, and he's got to wait on the hotline for another hour just to submit his results. And that's the kind of mess that was happening in Iowa. I think it's still being kind of sorted out. And it was so bad that they had to travel out to some of these locations to go pick up papers. In order to bring those papers back and collect all of the vote to make sure it was accurate. And at this moment we have 71% of the vote, but we don't know why 29% has not been released. We don't know why. But we're starting to learn more about this app. We're starting to get more details. We also know that there's a group called Acronym that has been a kind of parent company to this startup. An Acronym has a woman named Tara, who was the founder, and she herself, her husband, has some ties back to the Pete Buttigieg campaign, and we know that this Shadow Incorporated had contracted services out to Joe Biden's campaign, and Elizabeth Warren used it, and Kirsten Gillibrand used it. This is like a Democratic Party candidate. For the Democratic Party candidates, this was like an up-and-coming startup company that people could go to help them with text messaging, to help them with things related to software. And so, but what we don't know is why they were allowed to have this contract. We don't really know why it's so secretive. I'll close with this. In the run-up to the Iowa caucuses, they wouldn't tell us who the contractor was that was involved in this app. It was very peculiar, and I think it's...
Wait, hold on. Who wouldn't tell you? Who wouldn't tell you what?
The Iowa State Democratic Party, and anytime they mentioned that there was this app and that a contractor or a vendor had worked on the app, they wouldn't use the name. They wouldn't mention it. And it definitely added to the suspicion. And I don't know, I think there are two ways you can go. Maybe it's just silly. Maybe it's because this company's got a name that is frankly stupid when we're talking about elections. Shadow Incorporated? I mean, do you really want someone working on election tools that's called Shadow Incorporated? I mean, just put yourself in a position of an American. Can you imagine if you heard that the people let's take something that has been a focus of our election talk for the last 4 years. Can you imagine if we heard that the Russian government that Vladimir Putin had turned and used a software app called Shadow Incorporated, do you think you'd believe for a moment that that election tool wasn't doing something that we should be questioning? I mean, take your country, China. Imagine if China was doing it, Iran. Like we could go down the list of countries that America has had its problems with in the past 5, 10, 20 years. So then I wonder if the Democratic Party didn't want to tell voters that they had a company working for it that was called Shadow Incorporated. That sounds like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Or maybe there's something related to this company that they just didn't want people to know what it was, who was involved. We don't have the answers. At this moment as I talk to you, unfortunately, I don't know why there was this secrecy. But even the day of the Iowa caucuses, if you went to their website, and what I view as unusual, you couldn't find any information about who these people were that worked on this app that was being used by the Iowa caucuses. I had to hunt around. Everyone else had to hunt around. We went to, you could find some of their profiles on a site that's called LinkedIn that a lot of people use in order to post their profiles and connect with people throughout businesses, and they were listed there. But what about the average person who doesn't have a LinkedIn profile? Or what about the average person who doesn't understand how to use LinkedIn? How do they figure out who's working on these tools that are being used by our political parties, and maybe even on a wider scale, our state and our county and our cities that are going to be managing elections, if they're going to bring in these contractors? How do we figure out that information if we're involving companies that aren't transparent about who's working on these apps?
Well, and companies who are not transparent, uh, companies who are counting our votes. And I think we need to think about that, everybody. So call me at 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278. We are on Facebook Live on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Please like and share, like and share. And we're on YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show. Please like and subscribe. And we're talking with Kevin Gosztola. I mean, I am so glad that you're here with us today to help us to tease out what really happened in Iowa, because clearly this investigative journalist, fine journalist he is, they knew something was amiss. They wanted to know who is the shadow company, this company that will be counting our votes. They couldn't find out much about them. They're in the shadows. Wow, why? What do you think about that? And what do you think about that State of the Union address last night? What is the state of our union? This is the state of our union. What we saw last night and what we saw in Iowa. But the good news is, America, we can fix it. You need to get registered to vote, and you need to get involved. Don't be too busy to take care of your busyness. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes.
where facts matter.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Continue to give us those calls. I know the lines are busy, but we're going to get through the callers as we talk with Kevin Gosztola of Shadowproof. You know, it's a tremendous website, and you're an investigative journalist, and I'm so glad that you've been looking into this issue. But before we go to the callers, I want to find out from you, why did you want to find out about Shadow, and how did they get this? How did they get into this process just 2 months before the Iowa primary? The Iowa caucus. How did they get this contract? How did they get involved in the counting of the votes in Iowa?
Came from monitoring and covering and speaking about the corruption within the people who run the Democratic Party. I believe, and I can back this up further as we have our conversation, and I don't necessarily think that you'll disagree with me, but I believe that there's a progressive insurgency that is stronger than ever, or we could say a movement of people who are progressives that are opposing the we'll call them corporate Democrats that have had a lot of control. We go back 20 to 30 years, they've had the say-so about how the Democratic Party is run. And we've seen in the last 4 to 5 years with the rise of Bernie Sanders, but we've also had some incredible people in Congress, whether you're talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ayanna Pressley or Ilhan Omar up in Minnesota. We've seen some incredible women come forward who are examples of where progressives can go in this country, and yet we've got Chair Tom Perez, who has been helping other elites within the Democratic Party to maintain the status quo, to keep it's essentially pay to play. These contracts that are not reviewed properly, that allow money to either be wasted or to give people's former colleagues or best friends contracts. I know that we've had that kind of problem here in Chicago with the Chicago Public Schools. Mm-hmm. So it's happening within the Democratic Party that they don't want to change the way they do business. They don't want to be more transparent, more democratic, even though they are the Democratic Party. They were resistant at first to changing the matter of superdelegates so that everyone who went to the Democratic National Convention, those pledged delegates would be the people who determined who would be the party's nominee, and you wouldn't have Democratic Party insiders voting and perhaps going up against the people throughout the country. You've seen people say, well, we don't want people who are connected to fossil fuel companies who are polluting our planet to be contributing money to the Democratic Party. We want to be able to make our changes and do what we want to do with the party without them influencing us. And there have been people who are progressives who have had to fight the Democratic Party over allowing oil money, gas money into the party. And they opened up the door last year to letting those companies continue to influence the Democratic Party. We've seen initial appointments to who are going to be on these convention committees in Milwaukee, just up in our north, the state that borders us to the north in Wisconsin in July. And we've seen the cast of people that are going to be on these convention committees, and it says that the Democratic Party still wants to be the same party it was. And I think you really have to ask yourself, with Donald Trump in the White House, do we need a Democratic Party that's going to still be the same way it was 20 and 30 years ago? Or do we need a Democratic Party that's going to open itself up to people and be responsive to issues that matter to all of us? I mean, one of the things that has fallen by the wayside related to Iowa, because we were talking about an app that malfunctioned so badly, is that the majority of people who participated in the caucuses favor something called Medicare for all. They want to expand public health insurance, have the government involved, and expand it to cover all Americans to get around the problems, the systemic problems we have with private insurance. So that's something that I think people who are hurting really see as a way forward to deal with all the struggles they have from medical bills. And that's a positive thing. But I have to tell you that I think the people running our Democratic Party right now do not believe in this policy and will do everything to stop it.
And that's why we have to go on and get involved. You have to stay involved. I was just talking with my intern Cortez, and Cortez was saying that he is in media. That's why he's interning here. And as I go to the callers, Kevin, he said, I interviewed about 35 students, and maybe about 10-15% of them said, and this is why I don't vote. I said, but one of the things that I learned from Reverend Jesse Jackson when he was about to run for president the first time, because people thought that a black person launching a serious presidential bid, that was a crazy idea. But it was his idea that he's the only candidate who said that he would have a woman on the ticket, and he became a top tier candidate, which is what opened the door for women getting into presidential politics, and blacks covering presidential campaigns, because that did not happen then. Yeah, it didn't happen. And so he said, what? If you don't run, you're guaranteed to lose. But if you do run, you just might win. You've got to get involved. And you have to be involved the way Kevin Gosztola is getting involved, has been involved, because he's asking the questions. If he didn't ask the questions, we might not even know what had happened. But you got to get involved. Let me go to you, Mark. What's on your mind, Mark? Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, this is Mark.
Mark, get to it, babe. What's on your mind?
I didn't hear you introduce. I'm sorry. I just had 2 points to say. One is that I've been on the DNC, and I was on the state central committee in Michigan. And one of the things that I think is telling about the conversation you're having right now is reading Donna Brazil's book, Hat. That she goes into that about the consultants and all of that stuff, and some of the stuff she tried to turn around when she was an intern DNC person. But the other issue is, like you had asked earlier regarding Nancy Pelosi lifting a speech, and I first of all, I don't second guess her mechanics in doing that. I believe that the president Donald Trump has denigrated the state of the state, and he's denigrated the office. And what is happening in her gesture, which I applaud, was a statement of civil people. We are the civility of our politics and of our of how we view governance has been shredded and has been totally destroyed. And I agree with you that just like you say, this is not something that just happened. This is something we've allowed to grow, and it's come to this unfortunate level.
I mean, because come on, Alexander Hamilton was killed in a duel. Okay, so we've had no. I mean, I'm just saying we've had hostile politics before. I'm not second guessing her. I'm disagreeing with her, and I'm disagreeing with her as an adult woman. I mean, as an adult woman who, well, let me say this as you make your final thought. I mean, I'm disagreeing simply because I know what I was taught by my mother and my father and my great grandmama, and all these old people who helped to raise me. You know, it's not what someone else does, it's what you do. My great grandmother, who could neither read nor write, said, "It's as long as what happens to you, that is bad things that happen to you, don't happen in you, you're gonna be all right, baby." And so I'm just saying that for the sake of civility, just because we've got someone who behaves in such an aggressive way that is so unkind, I don't want to respond in kind, because it continues. I think it just contributes to the really the degrading of the dialogue. And mind you, this is a woman for whom I have tremendous respect. I absolutely respect Nancy Pelosi, and even when I respect you and support you, I can disagree with you. I mean, and I look at her, and I don't just reflexively follow anybody. I can look at you and say, no, I don't agree with that. And I think we should all, as grown people, and as growing people and as mature people, be able to disagree with what someone does. You know, I mean, I don't, you know what I'm saying, Mark? I mean, I respect you. I can hear you saying, she should have ripped that. I think she should have done that in private. She could have done that in private in front of everybody, and then let loose with some expletives and say this so and so, because that's what people do anyway. But in public, I wouldn't respond in kind to him. No, I'm not going to do that, because what he is doing is so unkind. And it's not be. It's. I'm not going to say it's not the norm, because we are a country that has hosted slavery. We are a country that has hosted child labor. We are a country that has hosted women not having the right to vote. We've done some things that have not been good, but we have evolved, and we're an evolving people. And so I don't want to do that. Now, when I leave the stage, honey, and if he's backstage, and somebody might jump on him, because that happens. I just don't want to do it in public. That's all I'm saying, Mark.
I think what stopped her from jumping on him, she had that skirt on. If she had pants, ain't no telling what would have
No,
happened.
no, first of all, no, she's a lady.
Yes.
Because we're not going to do that. Because see, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So no, your final thoughts very quickly, because I need to get through some other callers.
I just want to say that, I hear what you're saying, but I think that these times are just testing the sanity of a civil people. Our civility is at test. That what he did last night was denigrated the whole purpose of the state of the state. And maybe she shouldn't. My thing is this: what would you have us as civil people to do? Because
vote him out. Vote him out. What Democrats need to do is something I'm not hearing them do. They need to have a voter registration drive. Period. You've got high school students from coast to coast, seniors, who will be able to vote in November. Have a voter registration drive. Have in all 50 states what we have in the state of Texas and in some other states. Have a requirement as part of your getting your diploma. You are supposed to be registered to vote. If you don't want to vote, then opt out. That's what we do. That's what, I'm not going to do what you do to me. Otherwise, we're just going to have a brawl here. I'm not going to do it, and you're not going to make me do it. I'm not. So that's what we need to do. I love you, Mark. I'm going to run to some other callers. You know I love you. I love you. I love you. And you know that. See, he needed that today, and I'm not mad at him. Let me go to you. Here's another Mark from Barrington. Mark, what's on your mind? Ooh, wait a minute. Mark? Hey, sweetie, what's on your mind?
Hello, Santita. It's so great to talk to you.
Great hearing your voice.
Hey, that Kevin is doing. This is amazing work. And it makes me wonder about what about, all those candidates that wasted all that money in Iowa. Now Michael Bloomberg is going to be a real beneficiary of this because he made the right choice of bypassing that show. And, the Kamalas of the world could potentially still be in the race if they had kind of thought this through. Iowa, the caucus system is so undemocratic, and it's just such a huge waste of time and resources. Maybe it's a straight to Super Tuesday strategy that works in the future and helps to keep viable, good candidates in the race that don't run out of money.
Well, you know what? What do you think about that, Kevin? I mean,
well, first off, I would say that there was something added called satellite caucuses that the Iowa State Party never tried, and this again was overshadowed by the mess with the caucus app. But they did hold some gatherings with people who couldn't be part of the Iowa caucuses because they worked a shift that was during that hour. We saw some pork plant workers had sent some delegates over for Bernie Sanders. I think there were some other people who had gatherings. I think Elizabeth Warren was picking up some delegates from there. But the point being that they were having these caucuses from people who were deployed in the military, having some of these before. But as you say, it's rife with problems. Very few are able to participate. You also have the issue of how homogenous and very white the state of Iowa is. So should it be going first? But then you talk about should you just skip over and go to Super Tuesday, and then now you bring up the matter of Michael Bloomberg. I think Michael Bloomberg is a huge issue looming over this Democratic Party race because Michael Bloomberg was a Republican billionaire who ran New York City, and he has an amazing war chest, so to speak, a treasure chest, if you want to call it that, where he can just keep using his money. He can spend tens of millions of dollars. He's already spent over $200 million on advertising. He can just keep funneling money. He doubled his staff. He's got thousands of people now that he's bringing on board to commit his efforts. We're seeing mayors in cities around the country supporting. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the Chicago mayor, Lori Lightfoot, is moving towards being an open supporter of Mike Bloomberg. So this is a force that is entering the race in a major way, and I think he's looking at the chaos in Iowa and ready to take advantage. And I have some serious reservations about a Bloomberg campaign.
Well, what are your reservations? I mean, I think of stop and frisk, but I also think of, I see him, almost. I'm wondering about. I just believe we need to have a publicly funded campaign system so that anyone who wants to run ought to be able to run. For you to have limitless resources, and because he's moving up in the polls just on his resources and a wonderful media campaign. I mean, it's like Pete Buttigieg. I don't know where he came from, but I know the black folks in South Bend are not feeling him. The people who've lived with him from day to day. And then, blacks in New York are very upset about stop and frisk still today. So what are your issues with him?
Well, first off, you're making the right point, because if a potato, if a hamburger had $200 or $300 million to pull and run and do advertising and try to get the American people to vote for it as the next president, I bet it would probably get 5 or 10% of people who would say, I'd rather have a hamburger as our president than Donald Trump. I mean, look at what we've gone through. I'd take just putting a piece of meat in the White House and just letting it sit for the next 4 years, and then we'll take care of business outside the White House. I think we could have a pretty good country. But the other thing that's a serious issue, and instead of just making light, is that Michael Bloomberg stands to lose if we move towards some of the policies that are becoming popular with progressives. Most importantly is his wealth. He has $52 billion and growing in his fortune. He does not want a wealth tax. We've heard this talked about as a way to pay for more programs that can take care of providing people and helping people with basic human needs. This is where we're headed. We want to pay for things like family and medical leave. We want to pay for things like free college tuition so young people don't have student loan debt. We want to pay for things that can address climate change, tackle our environment, protect people from pollution. We want to take money and we want to put it towards things that can help workers, etc. We want to expand Medicare. We want to have these sorts of things that can help people. And in order to do it, you're going to need to ask the wealthy to pay more. They're going to have to pay their fair share, as we've heard Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and other candidates say. And in fact, he is making an investment by running as a candidate to prevent a wealth tax from happening, to prevent taxes from happening. We saw this happen out in Seattle, by the way. I'm not just making this up out of whole cloth. This happened out in Seattle, where Amazon got involved and spent billions upon billions of dollars in the Seattle City Council election because they didn't want the City Council to tax them to try to address the issue of homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Seattle. So this is what Bloomberg is doing. He's running for president so that he can prevent major taxes from having to be paid on his $52 billion and growing fortune. And he's put in, he's already got historic $34 million ad buys to start off his campaign back in November. And then now that total is closing in on $250 to $300 million of money spent. And he I think it's insulting. He said no to the first few states. He's saying he can be the nominee, but he doesn't have to go campaign in all 50 states. And again, I think you're making the right point too. With stop and frisk, the way he allows the NYPD to have its way and business as usual to go on, where people's civil rights are being violated systematically. Remember, he was the one who was leading New York when we had the Occupy Wall Street movement, this amazing movement that is, in my generation, one of the more transformative moments. We can debate where it was ever a movement, but as a moment, it shifted the consciousness. It got us thinking about the way wealth is distributed unfairly in this country. We started talking about income inequality. We started talking about the 99% versus the 1%. You hear people say that over and over again as a concept. It just didn't. It wasn't a popular concept before Occupy Wall Street. And Michael Bloomberg crushed those people in New York City. I was there. I saw them. I saw the people who were gathered. I saw him try mobilize police. And I've seen the video footage of how they raided and went after these people and arrested them and rounded them up. And it just doesn't seem like Bloomberg should be the next Democratic candidate, especially when he's a Republican. We've got people in the Democratic Party who have been doing good work.
I mean, because wait a minute, why isn't he running as a Republican? See, I am so tired of these people who. I mean, look, you can be party fluid. That's your business, but don't be principle fluid. I mean, that for me that's an issue. I mean, I'm seeing it. Why run since you want to take out Trump, then go on and face him head on. You don't have to come over here. You don't have to do that. I've got a couple minutes left, and I promise you, is it Tim and Ron and Maria and Fred and Raphael and Roosevelt, everybody. I promise you, I'm going to get you as soon as we get off the air. Can you stay with me just a few more minutes, Kevin? Okay, please, because I have a lot of people who want to talk as soon as we get off the air. But just very quickly, I've got a couple of minutes left before we officially go off the air. And everybody, go to my Facebook page, the Santita Jackson and Friends, like and share. We're going to stay here and talk with Kevin Gosztola of shadowproof.com. You got to go there and read his investigative reporting. It is fantastic. And my new YouTube page. Please continue to get on over there. You all are joining and you're liking and subscribing, and we love it, love it, love it. If you go on and like and subscribe, we can really, really grow. So please do that. The final minute and a half belong to you. What are we looking at? Kevin, what are we looking at? I mean, you bring up this. No, I mean, because the media are not asking Mayor Bloomberg about his position on the wealth tax. They're just going on and on about the fact that he's willing to spend limitless amounts of money to run, but he's running not everywhere. So, I mean, you're not going to go to Iowa? How must that make the people of Iowa feel? You're just selectively running. What are you running for? Why are you running?
Yeah, no, exactly. He's funneled money into 44 different state Democratic parties. He's donated the legal max. I was able to look into this and see, you have to file records as a candidate. That we have some transparency built in, so we can tell where some of this money is going. And it looks like the Democratic National Committee is willing to work with Bloomberg to bring him on. And I think they're open to it because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your views, Joe Biden's campaign is in a free fall. We see after Iowa that he just couldn't turn his people out. If he ever had people in Iowa that wanted to support him, something tremendously problematic for his campaign unfolded in Iowa. And, I'll close with the issue of these never Trump Republicans. These people who say they do not like Donald Trump, but they are now going to be supporters of the Democratic Party. If you have a stranger come in your house and you don't know who they are, I don't think you immediately think that they're hostile to you or they're unfriendly. But if they start to tell you where to rearrange the furniture, I think you got to stop them and say, hey, I just met you. You can't tell me what to do here in my house. And that's sort of what these never Trump Republicans are doing. They're giving money. They're trying to get involved in the Democratic Party, and they've never been a part of this. And I think you've got to look them square in the eye and say, listen, you let Donald Trump ruin your political party, and you should have spoken up a long time ago if you didn't want to have this mess. And you can't come seek shelter in the Democratic Party and then tell us that we've got to have a party that's exactly like the Republican Party, because that's what they want to do. They want the Democratic Party to be more like the Republican Party that they let become a total cesspool, a total mess with Donald Trump.
And thank you for that. I mean, because never Trump, always Republican. That's what I say. And you don't need to. I've got enough Democrats who want to be Republican. I have enough of that. I don't need you to do that. So join me and Kevin Gosztola over from shadowproof.com. We're going to be talking with you for a few minutes over here on the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And the Santita Jackson and Friends page on behalf of me and Lady B and Cortez and Mateo and who's on the other
Nico.
side? Is Nico? Okay, I didn't know if it was Zoe. I love you, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless. I was like, oh, Kevin, thank you. You were fantastic. Everybody is like so jazzed about you, which is so great. So great. But I'm going to bring on these callers because I had a full bank of callers who didn't get a chance to get to you. But I wanted you, I told you yesterday, I wanted you to be able to say so much of what you've been saying today. I mean, really. And I'm so glad you're here in Chicago. This is wonderful. Oh, wow. I hope that this will not be the last time. I'm looking forward to doing more with you. Doing much, much, much more. But hold on one moment, please, while we get everybody lined up here. Because I've got Tim and Ron. I've got Maria, I've got Raphael, Roosevelt. Okay, so we got it down to that. Okay?
Okay, I'm bringing you up right now.
All right, you're going to bring them up? Perfect. Okay, this
Maria,
faulty app. This is,
hello?
wow, unbelievable.
Maria? Okay.
Okay, great.
Hey,
She's up?
I'm going to bring you up right now, okay?
Okay, here we are. So, so let me just get this started one more time. Let me get this started one more time. We're talking with Kevin Gosztola of shadowproof.com, great investigative journalist. He had been asking for quite some time before we even knew about the Shadow organization that created this app, that created the mess in Iowa. I mean, you knew enough about them and you knew enough about this process to ask, who are they? Why are they here? What are they doing? Can you just briefly, just give us a brief snapshot once again of Shadow, who the acronym, all these companies that have come into the counting of our votes in this Democratic primary, particularly in Iowa?
Yeah, in Iowa, this caucus app was used. It did not count the vote. It was used to submit the vote by workers at these different precincts or caucus locations, and it wasn't necessary. It was a contract handed out to some friends of former colleagues of people within the Iowa State Democratic Party, and it just created a total mess. There wasn't any reason for it. It didn't make our process unfair. It just added to the chaos.
So what is our takeaway from Iowa? I mean, when do you think we're going to, I mean, are they still involved with Shadow? Does the Iowa Democratic Party, are they still involved with Shadow? What would their role be now, or would they have one?
So the good news is that the process in Iowa became a model that was something Nevada used. So Nevada was going to run their caucus in the same way as Iowa. They were going to use this app. But we heard yesterday from William McCurdy, who is the chair, that they are not using the app anymore. And again, as I've been saying, you don't need it. It's not even useful. You can just have people call into a line and submit their vote count.
Well,
and the wrong paper ballot.
Well, you know what? Let me get to. I think we have some background noise from some of our callers, but let's put Tim on hold then until we get to him. All right, everybody. So, just Kevin, what should our takeaway be? I mean, I'm not despairing. I'm really always very very excited when issues like this get the sunlight. What should our takeaway be? Because it seems to me that the corporate Dems are really well, I mean, they're pushing. They're pushing. I mean, and we see something happening with Tom Perez and how he's configuring the rules committee for the convention. Uh, Tell us something about that.
Well, yeah, so very quickly, I looked into these initial appointments that went to these different convention committees. People maybe don't pay a whole lot of attention to this stuff, but when you have the Democratic National Convention, they adopt a platform. They decide what's the vision, what's the ideas, what are Democrats going to talk about when they mobilize against Trump and the other Republicans? What are they going to use to try to energize people to take over the Senate, to maintain control of Congress? How are they going to get it so that we can advance an agenda for the people? And the individuals packed on these convention committees are overwhelmingly corporate Democrats. They come from the wing of the Democratic Party that gave us things like the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, that led to hundreds of thousands of jobs leaving the Midwest. They're the people who have been able to make deals with Republicans to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. And I think you see the young people coming forward, 18, 34 years old, just leading the way saying, we've got to have more progressives. We've got to change this. We've got to do something about climate change. And I think the Democratic Party is really concerned. They want to stop the change within their party. But unfortunately, I think this is growing so overwhelming, and I don't know that they're going to be able to stop it. Even in Iowa, despite all of this mess, we saw that there were a lot of progressives that went between Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. We've seen that some of them go to Pete Buttigieg. We've seen that some of them go to other maybe even going to Joe Biden, but saying that there needs to be more progressive politics in the Democratic Party.
Let me go to you. Let me see, Raphael. Raphael, how you doing?
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
It's wonderful hearing your voice.
No, thank you. Listen, you are my voice of reason. I listen to you every morning on my drive to work. So I'm calling for 2 points.
Bless your heart. Wait a minute. Let me glory in that for a hot second, Kevin and Raphael. I think I love him. Oh, my goodness.
Number one, Santita, I am still an undecided younger Democrat. I'm 32. I'm here in Chicago, and Iowa just really confused me even more. So I was, and I did vote for Hillary Clinton last time. I hear Kevin's point on Republicans joining the party. I know Hillary was a young Republican. I know Elizabeth used to be Republican. But I'm just confused. I'm really torn between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But I'm just confused. I don't know where to go this time. It's really hard for me. I know we're in the middle of March, but I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, number one. And number two, Santita, a little bit, I just respectfully disagree with you on the State of the Union. Nancy Pelosi, that whole State of the Union address yesterday, I was like down in the dumps. And when she tore up that speech, I really was like, okay, it harkened back to I Reclaim My Time from Ossie Jackson. And I was like, yes, somebody is peacefully and respectfully, truly challenging tyranny. And so I'm Puerto Rican. I'm also HIV positive. I'm torn, Santita. Be my voice of reason. I don't know where to go yet. I hope.
No, stay right there. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay right there. Number one, how's your health?
It's really good. I'm undetectable. I have great health care here in Chicago, thank God. I'm all for Medicare for all. Erie Health System here in Chicago is one of the best. I have to shout them out. They take good care of me. Undetectable. I'm a big HIV advocate, and that's why I'm torn. Elizabeth has a plan for HIV, Bernie does, and the rest really don't. So.
And okay, now let me say this to you, Raphael, because you have your own voice. What I will do, I'm not going to be your voice of reason. What I will do on this mic is try to be a voice for the unvoiced, But I want you to know that you have the power to speak up for yourself. I hope that that is one of your takeaways from this broadcast every day. I hope you understand that you matter, you are somebody, and your issues are paramount. So, on the local, state, and federal levels, you need to be involved as a human being first. Because of your HIV status, you now understand how vulnerable we all are when it comes to health. I just did a story, I reported on a story. I didn't investigate it, but there's a woman out just who got a $28,000 bill, Raphael and Kevin, because although she has health insurance, when you get your if you go to a if you get your when you get tested, if you are tested out of network, you have to pay for that. So understand, you have power. You have power, and you need to use it, okay? And you need to now begin to look and ask of all of these candidates on the federal, state, and local levels how they're going to make your life better. And not just your life, the lives of everybody you know, because we're all connected to each other. We're all connected. We're all connected. So I don't want you to walk away. I don't want you to walk. And Rush Limbaugh, God bless him. He's got to figure some things out for himself, and I can appreciate that. But and we will respectfully disagree because look, I just handle my political disagreements in a particular way, and I appreciate however anyone approaches it. That was just me and mine. That having been said, just know that you have the power, and I want you to vote when we have our primary in March. Make sure you vote. Know that your vote is not thrown away, but know that there are so many offices that we need to be looking at on the state and local levels. You need to be calling Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth right now and ask them how are they going to move Mitch McConnell in the Senate and what you can do to help them move him, because he's got 300 plus bills sitting on his desk passed by the House of Representatives that can make our lives better that he won't touch. Now you need to press our senators, press them, and go by their offices and press them and just say, now how can I help you help me? There's a lot of work you can be doing right here on the ground, and you need to organize your friends and make them do it.
So much. I really, like I said, voice of reason. And because of you, you're an inspiration. I actually did start a podcast talking to other people who are positive across the world. Yeah. So thank you so much for being an inspiration.
Sweetheart, you know what? I'm going to bring back my friend Dimitri Moise. Maybe you heard his for World AIDS Day. I met him over in Brussels a few months ago. I'm going to bring him back on so we can talk about his journey and what you can do just to make sure, because I want to make sure that you are getting all, and we're going to get Mark on from Bronzeville, just to make sure that you are getting all that you can out of the system so that we can make sure that your health is optimized, okay?
Thank you so much, Santita. Keep up the great work. Really, truly, thank you. Love you.
Love you too, sweetheart. And keep in touch with me. I want to know how you're doing, Raphael, okay?
Thanks, I will.
All right. Can you stay with me a hot second? I understand if you have to go, Kevin, because, I have to check. Thank you. I have to check on my audience, make sure that all my family members are doing all right. When he said that, I said, I got to check on my babe. Got to check on my little boo. All right, let me go to you, Ron. Ron, what's on your mind today?
Good morning. How are you this morning, Santita?
Sir, it's wonderful hearing your voice.
Listen, it was wonderful to hear your press this morning. I'm a long-time WCPT listener. I've been listening for many, many years. So it was good to hear his voice this morning.
Yes.
But as far as that State of the Union address, it wasn't a State of the Union address, it was a campaign speech. And in many ways it was insulting the way he did it. And he poignantly took directions at certain audiences. For example, that very first Gary Award he talked about, it happened to be a black man, which is great. And he was a recovering addict and a veteran, which was great. But, but his reasoning for doing it, with it being Black History Month and a black person there, was something to talk to the black audience, you see what I'm doing for you. The same thing with the black lady.
But you know what, Mr. Ron, stay right there. But I've seen all of the politicians at every level do that. And you know, and black people need to understand how crucial we are to the functioning of this country, socially, politically, and culturally. That having been said, you know, do something about it. Because what I want to do is I would like to challenge all people in elective office to do something to make our lives better. Because when you make black folks' lives better, you make everybody's lives better, right? So you know, so my thing is, you know, okay, honor the Tuskegee Airmen and honor the man who triumphed over addiction and now has a successful business. Great. Expand these opportunity zones. Do what you can. In the meantime, while you're giving a scholarship to this young black child who needs it, why don't you really make the public education system what it's supposed to be, instead of having a secretary of education who's trying to drain the public education system and kill it, while her own charter schools, stay right there, Mr. Ron, her charter schools up in Michigan, Kevin, I mean, they perform so poorly. They're an abomination to education. What, Kevin?
No, I think you're right, and we need officials that are going to be responsive to all of these communities. And though, however, I must say, what I object to is this whole display that Donald Trump put on, where he seems to be using black people as props. I mean, you saw what he did with Tim Scott in South Carolina, the black GOP congressman. I just think it's really crude, because it's like he's playing on our expectation that we don't think the Republican Party will let people of color be representatives in their party, and it's kind of like he's really degrading politics, because I mean our expectation should be that you wouldn't be an all-white party. Our expectation should be that our two major parties are going to reflect our country in the 21st century.
Mr. Ron, your final thought?
I'm glad he said that, and I agree with you, Santita. That's why I said what I did. I think these things should be done because they should be done because it's right for the people and right for the country. That's because it's the state of the union, and we want to show something that we're doing something. I think that's ridiculous. Nancy Pelosi and up tearing that up. I don't agree with it, but I don't blame it, and it didn't bother me.
Oh, I don't blame her. I just didn't want her to do it. But you know, I hear you, Miss Nancy. Blessings to you, Mr. Ron.
Because we're too nice to them. As far as I'm concerned, we need to get things put down.
Well, no, I don't want to be mean. You know what? I hear you. I'm not going to be mean. What I'm going to do is fight, though. I mean, I want to hear these Democrats have a voter registration drive that is meaningful. I want to see President Obama and the former our forever First Lady. I want to see them out here doing it. You know, they're not in retirement. They're too young. They need to be out here. As much as people love them, they need to be out here registering people to vote. Yeah. If you're going to ask Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's almost 80 with Parkinson's, and he's got it some kind of bad, if he's out here registering people to vote, you absolutely need to, because it was black people who put you in office. Tammy Duckworth needs to be registering people to vote. Dick Durbin needs to be registering people to vote. They all need to be doing it. But they first and foremost, because they were advantaged by black people and these young white kids who put all of their hopes and dreams on them. And so to whomever much is given, much is not expected, much is required. You need to do that. So come on now. Get folks registered to vote. I love you, Mr. Ron. Let me go to Miss Maria. Maria, what's on your mind, girlie?
Oh, girl, you know I have a lot on my mind. I was going to feel with that. I have to, as much as I cannot stand his voice, I listen to the...
Oh, wait a minute. Now, Maria, it sounds like are you on speaker or something? Because we can't hear you clearly. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can understand you. We could hear you. We just couldn't understand you. Now you go.
Okay. As much as I cannot stand his listening to his voice, I had to listen to this Justice of Disunion so I could hear his lies. What he did was, everything bad that he did, he turned it into a positive, which drove me nuts. I wanted to throw something at my TV set, but I couldn't do it because I didn't want to damage it. And the fact that he was using these black folks as props, as a tool to convince the black community who already know who he's about to join his campaign. It just made my, just made me angry, okay?
But you know what, Maria, stay right there. You know what, I'd like for Kevin, I want you to stay with me for a hot second, Maria. You know what I've been thinking? I really do believe that we need to look at this a little bit differently. And just work with me for a hot second, Kevin and Maria. You know, I think that we're being played here because we're looking at everything about the president irritates us personally. Mm-hmm. And we've taken everything so personally that we have forgotten to be political. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. And so every time we talk about President Trump, we don't talk about his policies. We talk about how he irritates us. So now my thing is, would you like his policies? Would you like his policies, even if they were detrimental to you, if you liked him? Because we've had that before too. I'm not going to mention any names. There's some people we've liked who had policies that were detrimental to us, but because we liked them, we said, you know what, I'm just going to let this go. I'm saying I think we need to be very, very careful here. And let's stay on policy, stay on point. Because that's the point. Because we started with this whole the celebritification, if you will, of the politician with Reagan, and that happened 60, 70 years ago. You had a B-list movie star who was handsome, who was likable, he was very, very genial. And they put him on television. He was president of SAG, and his politics were fairly progressive. Then they made him a corporate spokesperson. And when they saw that America liked him and he had a certain look, then they put him on the chicken dinner circuit, and he became a corporate spokesperson. And then they decided that, well, they didn't decide. They already knew they were going to run him for office. Then he became governor of California. Then they kept trying to run him for president. They tried to run him for president for 20 years, and then it finally worked. But because we liked him, we let some things go. I'm just putting that out there. So, go, Maria.
Well, here's the thing. I never liked Reagan. I liked him as an actor, but
I never liked him either. I'm just saying, a lot of folks, look, I just remember seeing the commercials, with the Kevin with the wheat blowing in the wind, and then the farmer walking through with his deer hat on and his plaid shirt and his jeans, and I just felt America was just this fabulous place, and kumbaya, all that, right?
I think because of my background in public relations, journalism, I have a skeptical eye. I think what was irritating me was that he was taking credit for the work that Obama did, and he doesn't deserve that credit. And as much as I like to take the high road and use etiquette, I actually didn't feel bad when I was surprised. When Nancy taught that speech, I was like, oh.
Well, I'm glad it made you feel better. I'm just saying, it still hasn't moved the needle on those 300 bills that Mitch McConnell's got on his desk. So I think I would like to see her do something else. Storm over to the Senate side and read Mitch McConnell the Riot Act and say, now you do something about these bills that I sent over to you. I want to see. Now, I'd love to hear that as a rumor. She is the Speaker of the House.
Dressing white do that.
No, and then they should march over there. See, to me, that's meaningful protest. Otherwise, you playing with me. I didn't say you are. I said you playing with me. What I need, there are 300 bills plus that is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk that he refuses to vote on, and we're not talking about that. We're still talking about political theater. Got to stop that, because that's not making me feel good. You rip the paper. But what I need you to do is go talk. Now, you know what? You need to go into, Mitch, because you know what? Chuck Schumer is not her peer. Mitch McConnell is not her peer. Mike Pence is not her peer. Mm-hmm. The president is her peer. Don't get it twisted. Let's get this right. We have a tricameral form of government. The Chief Justice is head of the judicial branch. The President is head of the executive branch. The Speaker of the House is head of the legislative branch. She is fourth in line to succession in the presidency. She is. She is over Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. And she needs to go see Mitch McConnell right now. You know what? She needs to get Chuck Schumer in check and say, now look, son, yeah, you're my son in this setup. Now you go and talk to him and you get it straight. Otherwise, Mama's coming over there. How about that? Hello? Maria?
That's great.
Kevin? No, stay right there. Stay right there, Maria. Kevin, come on. What?
No, I think that's exactly right. And we need real. We need to go beyond political theater. I think is exactly right. I know that people love symbolism, but I have to be very open and say that I'm with you. We don't just want symbolism from these people. We want the leaders who are in these offices. Yeah, I understand you don't. I understand it's the Senate. You don't control the Senate. You don't have the votes. You can't make those GOP people change, but you can create pressure and you can create confrontation, and you can look at the history of social movements when they didn't have power and how they built power, and you can do the same inside of our government. I believe that these people who don't come from this background can learn a lot from people who have forced change in the history of our country.
Maria, really quickly, because I've got to go to Roosevelt.
Okay, I have to say I agree with your points. Actually, I think the people should march and boycott against McConnell for not opening up those bills to be heard in the Senate. I agree with you. And my thing is, we have to fight. We've had a few fiascos, like in Iowa and all that, and we've had a few knockdowns, dragged out fights. But you know what? We can rise above this. Like I always say, it's up to the people. We all count. We all matter. So don't assume just because I'm just me, I can't do anything. Yes, you can.
These are all the same ones.
Yes, you can.
Look, I hear you. Roosevelt, what's on your mind today? Very quickly.
Right. You always like to say that you would like to talk to people that disagree with you. Well, here we go. If you look at the video where she's ripping up the papers, you could tell she's very emotional. I think her emotions got the best of her. And we're talking about a human being that's been there for 40 years in the political field. A woman, by the way, the leader of the Democratic Party, the highest office held by a Democratic person, okay? So I think her emotions got the best of her. I am going to let her, give her okay with that. And I'm surprised that she didn't throw the papers at him, because what he did, the lady, if I do that to you, Santita, in public, and remember the forum that we're at, that's her house. He disrespected her in her house of representatives, a woman that's been there for 40 years, that she should have all the respect, no matter what your side is. So that's the first thing I got to say about that.
Well, let me respond to that very quickly. You know what? No, let me respond to it. I will tell you this. This is one of the most seasoned politicians in the world. She's not that emotional. No, wait. Oh, no, this is someone I know. Okay, these are not people I've met. Okay, and this is a world I know. I'm just telling you this. When you get to that level, you are not that emotional. You're just not. You're not. Because she never would have become Speaker of the House. Don't be fooled. She's not Nancy. She is Speaker Pelosi. This woman's father, she's from one of the most powerful political families in the... No, wait, just let me... Roosevelt, we're not going to talk over each other. Roosevelt, stop. I'm going to let you continue. I'm going to make this point, though. No, Roosevelt, I'd sit up and I engage you forever. So you just wait a minute. So let me finish my point. What I'm saying to you is she is a very seasoned politician, and she even knew that and she especially knew that by ripping up the paper that this would be part of the discussion today. She is not someone who is that emotional. She's just not. I'm not saying that she is devoid of emotion. What I'm saying is that's not how the game. That's not how it plays out for her. She knew exactly what she was doing. It was a calculation, and I'm not mad at her about being about calculate. Well, no, I'm just telling you where. Okay, now I saw you know what, I saw the video, and I've met her on more than one occasion, and I've talked to these people, and you know what, it people don't, they just don't function like that, Roosevelt. I respectfully disagree, but you know, I hear you. But your next point, Roosevelt.
My next point is this. As far as Rush Limbaugh, he, remember what Roland said? We're here because of him. We're here because of him. We're this divided because of Rush Limbaugh. Remember what he did with Michael J. Fox? He said that Michael J. Fox was making up his Parkinson's disease. So as far as Rush Limbaugh, karma. As far as Rush Limbaugh, you reap what you sow. As far as Rush Limbaugh, they made a mistake. He was there. Trump is going to give him a medal. This is ridiculous. We are living in, well, that's precisely my point, getting back to Pelosi. We no longer live in a world of reality. We live in a make-up world. This guy's going and destroying the Constitution, destroying what honor is, destroying what respect is, destroying everything that there is when it comes to our democracy. We live in a divided States of America, not in the United States of America. With his speech that he made last night, he divided this country even further. Every time he speaks, he divides. When he didn't stretch out his hand to Pelosi, he's dividing the country.
Well, what do you mean when she didn't stretch out? When he did when he would not speak to, when he would not greet her in kind, right?
Pelosi, if you notice, Pelosi stretches out her hand and he doesn't do anything but keeps on applauding. Take a look at the video. And so when he did that,
we talked about that at the top. The, just so that you know, that's not something we missed. We've been talking about that for 2 hours now.
So he's playing to his base. Everything this man does is for his reelection. Everything, including this.
But we know that. But you know, but honey, we already know that. We know that. But I maintain. As I go to Tim, because we're gonna have to close this out, and I'm gonna give Kevin his closing remarks. I maintain that we are, even the whole Kevin, the emotion that we invest in Donald Trump is, I feel like we're being gamed here. I really do. Because in the meantime, you've got Ben Carson, who is removed, discrimination from the mission statement of HUD, which is why HUD was started. You have these people who are, the government is going on every day while we're not talking about policy or politics, we're talking about that which is personal, Kevin. And that for me is very dangerous. I feel like we're being distracted here.
Tim.
Yes.
So border, and so those are the things that need to be, I think, top of mind here. And I'll also close. So let's close with going forward, what people can fight for. I mean, when you're thinking about having more democracy in our elections, there's so much that can be done. We should have automatic voter registration in our state. We should have maybe even moving towards mail-in ballots. Our fellow Americans out on the West Coast have systems where they mail their ballot in, and they start voting 2 and 3 weeks before, and those are collected. They seem to do pretty well with a mail-in ballot system. What if we had a system with ranked choice voting? Maybe that would allow people to have more of a voice, because you get to put down your first and your second choice and let the whole system play out, and so you really get to influence the outcome of who becomes the person that, who are we going to nominate as our president, but also who are we going to have be in Congress, in the Senate, and in our lower parts of the government. You really don't need to just focus on the president. I'll close on this. You don't need to just focus on the president. As you've been saying throughout the last hour, hour and a half, it's also about these people at the city and county level. It's tremendously important. Prosecutors, look at our district attorneys. We've had an amazing movement with progressives changing the way that the criminal justice system works in the last 2 to 4 years. That's something people can impact too coming up in November.
And we do well. Actually, no. I'm gonna have to close out, Roosevelt. I love you. Okay, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. But I've gotta release the studio because other people have to come in. Absolutely. And I love speaking with everybody after we get off the air. I really, really do, and I really try to give everybody the time. And I know, and I appreciate you. And what I try to do, I don't try to interrupt you to cut you off. I try to engage you. Because no, no, but Roosevelt, shh. One of the things you have to understand is that if you sat up here and watched this clock tick, I give you more time than just about it. Just about Roosevelt, the lines, Roosevelt, shh, put him on hold. These lines belong to everybody. Everybody. And I can understand and appreciate your emotion, but they belong to everybody. And it is my job to help to move the conversation along. That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to engage you. I don't want you to just think that you're on the air and you're just throwing up on the air. No. That's not, regurgitation is not what we're going to do here. What we're doing here is having a conversation where people will, because I'm hearing you, I'm listening to you, and I want to engage you. And I also want to give you the benefit of some things that I have experienced and some things that I've known. So when I share with you some things about Nancy Pelosi, I haven't met her in passing. These are people who I've met, and these are things that I've learned in a life of politics and public service and in the church and in public life and in the civil rights movement all of my life. These are not people I've met. These are things that I see, that these are things that I know. And so I'm going to share them with you. I don't think that the Lord let me see these things so that I could just keep them, write a memoir, make some money, and keep it moving. No. That's not the way it's supposed to work. What I'm supposed to do is come back home and share with you how these things work so that you can be about the work of making this society what it's supposed to be. I don't want you to get so caught up in the personality of the president like we did. That's how he got elected. Everybody got elected. Everybody got excited about his personality, or they were angered by him, instead of looking at the policies that he was about to push. You did that with President Obama, too. We did it with Bill Clinton. We did it with George Bush. We continue to do that. And Americans are going to have to grow up in our politics because this is real stuff. We've got children who are in school who are not able to eat. They're hungry. You have girls, I heard something called period poverty. I'd never heard of anything like that. You have young ladies who cannot get items that are most personal to them because they cannot afford it. These are the real things that we're going to talk about. I don't care what the president is doing. I don't care about Nancy Pelosi ripping up a speech when I've got a girl who cannot buy personal items. When I've got children who are sitting in school who cannot get their eyes examined, who can't see the chalkboard. That's what we're dealing with in America today. When people are working hard every day, but they are not able to afford an apartment near where they live. People are getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning, commuting to work. That's the real stuff here. When you go into work in one of the most profitable corporations, Kevin, in the world, and part of the intake process is for you to learn how to apply for welfare. What?
Yep.
And then you look at the person who's on welfare as someone who's lazy and they're working hard every day, but oh no, they can only work 39 and a half hours a week. While these families get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. No. Get over his personality. He's going to be gone either in November or in 4 more years. Or if he decides to make this into a fascist totalitarian government, which is where if you don't stop with his personality, this is where we're going to be. He'll be here forever. Get over his personality. Get over it. Get over it. Get involved. That's what you need to get some people registered to vote. Make sure that the children in your neighborhood are registered to vote. That's what you need to do. Let's do that. Let's deal with the real issues here. And everybody go to shadowproof.com, shadowproof.com, so that you can get some great news every day. I want to thank you, Kevin Gosztola, for being with us. Will you come back to the show?
Oh, absolutely. I had such a good time talking to you. Thank you.
Oh, I had a great time with you. You've been such a blessing. I love you all, everybody. I am gonna run. Have I missed anyone?
Tim is
Oh, you know what? Let me give Tim a real. Tim, make your final comment. We're gonna get out of here.
Well,
Who's in the background?
I have always tried to reach out.
Okay, who's in? Hold on, honey. I hear something in the background because we cannot hear. There you go.
Okay.
No, honey, it wasn't you. I was just trying to make sure that you could be heard because we had a lot of background noise. Your final thought, Tim?
I've always been willing since the time you and I have talked on the air and talked in real life to reach out to people in the Democratic side and work out our lives together in a harmonious and negotiable way. But what I saw last night from Nancy Pelosi was really over the top. Just if you want me to run into the arms of this president, that's the kind of stuff that'll do it.
Oh, you were gonna do that anyway, so get on out of here. You were gonna run into you are deep in his bosom, so just stop it. Don't no. Her ripping up some papers, Tim, is not gonna make you. Oh, get out of here. You mean what is it? This woman who offended you, that she would dare tell him to go straight to the devil? Are you kidding me? Come on now. Oh no, stop.
In California.
So she has not done anything to the poor in California. Look at what he's done to the poor in California. He says they're dirty and he says that they are, wait a minute. He says that they are messing up the optics of beautiful Los Angeles. We've got to get rid of these. These people are dirty. Are you kidding me? So what she did last night made you is gonna make you vote for Trump. Is that it? Are you really gonna hand me that, Tim?
I did not vote for Trump last time. I did not vote for Trump. I'm telling you the truth.
I'm saying, honey, if you did, but I'm saying, so what she did last night made you what?
Was despicable. It was over the top. She could have just tossed those things down to her left and had the exact same effect instead of doing what looked like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who doesn't get.
Whoa. What did you think about him as she extended her hand to him? What did you think about him? I've never seen anything so ungentlemanly in my life. I mean, I'm making it. I'm taking. No, wait a minute. Hold on, Tim, because I'm taking it right there. Because I was raised. I remember. My Uncle Saint drove me to school one day, and Uncle Saint traveled with my father for decades. Got to wish him a happy birthday. And I saw, we used to line up when we'd go into school by grade, and then you'd march into the building, right? You remember that? Okay. So I saw them lining up because we were running late, and I was trying to run so I would not be late because we lived, about 15 minutes away from the school, and sometimes we could be late, and I was like, oh, embarrassing. And my Uncle Saint said, wait. I was about 5 or 6. Never will forget this, Tim or Kevin, because you're still there. And he came around and he opened the door. And he said, baby, a gentleman always opens the door, so you must wait. And if you're going to be late, Uncle Saint will walk you in. And I will explain to the teacher why you were late. But don't ever open your door. You wait for the man to get out and open the door for you. So you have to understand, I'm from the kind of background where my father and the men I was raised by, they opened the door. When I went to college, my girlfriends and I would go out with my brothers because Jesse, Johnny, and I are a year apart. Jesse and Johnny are Irish twins. They're 10 months apart. So my parents had their first 3 kids in 2.5 years. Yes. So we were all in college at the same time. And my brothers, who are a little younger than I am, would come in. They'd come up to Washington because they were in North Carolina. And we would all go out. My girlfriends loved them. And my brothers are a lot of fun. They're really nice. And I remember there was a Houston's restaurant that opened in Washington, and so we were going to go to Houston, get some good food, sit up and laugh, and run our mouths all night. And as the night ended, they brought the checks, and we went in our purses, and my brothers were like, oh, wait. I don't know who you've been out with before, but you're out with us, and we take care of you. So when I saw him turn his back to her, I didn't see the president, I saw a casino owner who's accustomed to seeing the underbelly of life and people who do all kinds of things to survive. I did not see the president of the United States and the first lady and the president and one day the first gentleman. They're the spiritual father and mother of the nation. And so it is their responsibility to elevate. Just as my parents continue to elevate, my parents have the power even now, and I'm a very grown woman. I have an AARP card. But they have the power because of their moral authority to tell me, Santita, don't do that. Because in the worst of times, I've seen them on their best behavior. That is your responsibility when God gives you that, when God elevates you in that way. And He did not do that. And that for me is dangerous, culturally, socially, and spiritually dangerous, before I even get to the politics. That's awful. He set the tone for the evening. And it was vulgar and it was unkind. And it was beneath him, a father of 5 children, a husband, a grandfather. He did not need to do that. And if I saw him today, I would say, I wish you hadn't done that. And I hope that you will do better. Because as a woman who tries to be Christian, because I'm not there yet, I'm just working. I am not like Jesus. I just believe in His example, and I'm trying to get there. I'm just saying, I would say, I really wish you would do something different, because that's what we need. As people, as human beings, we need an example of someone who's going to do better. I don't know how the Pope behaves in private, but I know by the time they tried him out in front of me, he's wearing beautiful robes, and he smells sweet. His hands feel like butter, because I've met a couple of popes in my lifetime, and they're just lovely and they smile. Now, I also find out that in the church they have a lot of crazy things going on, but you know what? I don't see it. That's why you have water closets. You don't use the restroom in public. That's why you don't wear your undergarments in public. You have covering, because that is appropriate, and it keeps things respectful. Now you go on and make your final statement.
Okay. So then she lowered herself to his level then.
Oh, so you're telling me that he was at a low level then. So why didn't you start with him? Why didn't you start with him, and why'd you start with the end? Come on now, let's get logical. You started with the end. You started with the caboose. The train is driven in the front, not by the caboose. Now start with the front. No. You start with what he did that was you start with what he did that was inappropriate. You tell me how he sickened you. Don't tell me about what she did. You tell me about what he did. And when you can start there, when you can be that logical, when you can start with A and not Z, then we have a conversation. Otherwise, mic drop on that. She did not impeach him. He impeached himself. And the sad thing is, other presidents have done other things, and they have not been impeached. But he was impeached on that. He impeached himself. She didn't make that phone call with the Ukrainian president. He did that. She did not call for a leader of another nation to investigate an American vice president. He did that. She extended her hand to him. He's the one who turned his back on her. Start with that, Tim.
And that was an inappropriate and a horrible thing to do.
It was not horrible. Come on now. I didn't call you horrible. Yeah, but honey, I didn't say you were horrible. I don't do that with you. We're grown people. You're not horrible. You're a sweet guy. Come on, get out. Stop that. I'm just saying, be logical.
To make this country better when our politicians are at each other's throats on national television for 2 hours?
Ask that they do better. Well, number one, you need to demand something of him, and you need to speak to people who support him, and they need your call. That's what you do. I promise you, every phone call that is made, every email that is made, they have made a calculation that you represent X number of persons in the society, X number of people who vote. You have to let the president know that that kind of behavior is unacceptable. And you don't have to do it in a disrespectful way. And in fact, I'd rather you not. You just say, now, you know what? Man to man, don't do that. Don't treat her that way. Don't do that. Don't do that. As a man, you can say that. And I think that you should. I think that you should.
You know how terrified I am of calling in shows like this and interacting with people like you. I'm terrified.
Oh no, you're not, because you come out to several of my events and you give me a hug. You even brought me some candy and a Christmas card. Get out of here! I'm letting everybody know that you are the sweetest man in the world. Yes, you are. Get out of here.
You are something very special at WCBT that I have not interacted with. I've been calling that show. I've been calling WCBT for over 10 years. People know me all across this town in my comments with Norman Goldman and Stephanie and everybody else. And you're something very special at WCBT because you're willing to not just denigrate me as soon as I say I'm not walking lockstep to the Democratic Party. It's fantastic, and this is why I did. I was very scared to come out to Pearls. I was, that was not easy for me.
Oh, but you weren't scared. You were not scared to talk to Reverend Jackson. In fact, when you saw Reverend Jackson, you said, "Kevin." He saw Reverend Jackson. He saw my father and said, "I said, remember we sat together on the plane? Remember?"
I love that man. I love that man. And there's no question that I have true love for him. So
and I have true love for you, and we have true love for each other. So just go on and just, you know what, tell the man already. I want you to do better. I want you to be better. And have that conversation with your friends so that that can happen. That's all you need to do. I'm just asking for all of us when we have the opportunity, let's grow up our dialogue and grow up our politics. That's all I'm saying. And you have the responsibility and you have the ability to do it.
I have a photograph of me and Nancy Pelosi together, standing together in a photograph outside of the office where I worked at 300 Ashland. I pursued her for 40 minutes to get that photograph. Why? Because she is the first woman Speaker of the House in American history, and I honor that photo. That photo was given to my daughter. Do I agree with her politics? No. Do I hold her accountable for the things that she's done wrong? Yes. Do I respect her as the Speaker of the House with absolute respect and dignity? But what I've seen in the last 2 years is shocking. It's shocking. It's just civil war. It's just not fought.
Look, I'm just saying, don't be shocked. This is our government also told Dr. King to kill himself. Okay. So come on. Did you just giggle, Kevin? Did you just go, huh? I'm just saying we done.
We had to have some perspective here.
I mean, they sent him. I mean, and then J. Edgar Hoover, the head of our FBI, told this man, "You need to kill yourself." Who does that? The head of our FBI.
People.
And just, I mean, come on. So don't act like we've not done this before. Don't act like we didn't have My Lai during Vietnam, where you put people in a ditch and shot them up. I mean, really? There's some issues that we have that are human, and we behave in an inhumane way. And I'm saying there is no such thing as American exceptionalism. We all have the bug, okay? And we all have to grow up and just be better human beings. Okay? That's all I'm saying, sweetie. I love you, Tim. Tell me that you love me. Tell me you love me.
I love you too.
See?
And people that comment are wonderful as well. But
you love them all. You love them all, even when you don't like them. You love them all. Say that.
I'm trying to be a Christian. You know that. I can only try.
No, you gonna do it. You gonna do it. Come on, tell everybody you love. Say I love you, everybody. I love you.
Everybody that can hear my voice, I love you.
I love you, Tim, and I love you, Kevin. Don't we have a good time here on the Santita Jackson Show? Tim, now Kevin thinks I'm crazy, but you know what, Kevin? I will say this as I go. I feel so blessed to be on this show. I really do. And to interact with Tim and Roosevelt and Maria, our flamenca, because she came to our October. What is it? Halloween party. She was a flamenca dancer. Fabulous. It's just But you know what? And you're gonna have to come to one of our parties too, Kevin. Yes. And in fact, every Monday night over at 930 East 50th Street at Push, we do a Facebook Live where we have these conversations, have some food and talk. And I want everybody to come on out so we can have conversations like this. Because I think that You know, I remember I've had some wonderful experiences in life. Look, when my father ran for president in '83, when he first ran, you know, when the Secret Service got his detail, they got the bum detail, and they would tell you at at the end of it that nobody they were like, oh man, you must really hate me. This is like a real demotion. But somewhere in the first few weeks, they got a chance to see the people they saw in America they had never seen. And they saw people that they had never seen. And they saw the excitement and they saw the thousands of people, the tens of thousands of people who were coming out to see them. And they also got a chance to interact with us. So, like during Christmas, we always had a lot of people. We've always had a lot of people over for Christmas. And so my mother and I went out to the store and we got them all Christmas gifts because these were people who were not going to be with their families for Christmas. So you felt for them, and they were not going to be with their families because they were protecting Dad. So we went out and got them gifts, and then we had a Christmas dinner by shifts. So of course, we took food to their trailer, but we said, "No, you come in, and we're going to have dinner by shift, so you can at least have a family dinner." So by the time the campaign was over, they said, "We hope he runs again, because we would do this." Some of them made me cry. They said, I would take a bullet for him. And you had one or two who were hostile, and then you would tell, the head of the detail, and they would be removed, but not really. And they got a chance to grow and see people in another way. And for that, I'm grateful. And so I have a lot of hope in humanity. I really do. Because I think that once we get to know each other, I don't care where you start. I'm looking at where you end up. Yeah, because we all start somewhere and we are all broken and we're all struggling. Kevin and Tim, we are. But let's just try to grow and try not to measure someone by their worst moment. You don't want to be measured by your worst moment. That's why I'm not going to do that to President Trump even. I'm not. I don't want to do that. And that's why I can't get that caught up in his personality. If he does something good, shoot. A broken clock can be right twice a day. Okay, he was right to honor the Tuskegee Airmen last night. He was right. Was he being used? Of course, everybody gets used. That's politics. Obama did it. Yeah. Bush did it. Clinton did it. That's what everybody does it. You're in politics. That's what you do. But you just hope that your better angels are taking over so that you're not misusing someone, so that you're not abusing someone. And maybe we can begin to fight for that which is right and make the country what it's supposed to be. How about that? How about that?
That's the goal.
Well, no, some of us, the goal is for us just to be right and for someone to declare us the victor. I think that we can all win. And that's where I am. So on that, I'm so glad I got, now, Tim, go on and get that robe, that priestly robe that you have in that closet. Put it on today since you are now Reverend Tim. Loving everybody. Don't you hear that organ swell in the background, Kevin? I love you all. On behalf of everybody, come on, Mateo's, I don't know who he's talking to. Over here, Nico. I mean, he's just down on the phone. I see the top of his hat, the ball. So I love you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. And Kevin, I do hope that you will come back to the show.
Oh, absolutely. Invite me on. I'd love to talk to you and your listeners anytime.
And just know that, you know what? Anytime you have a story that you want to put out there, just send them to me. You have my number now. Okay? Love you. And God bless you, everybody. God bless you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Like and share, like and subscribe on YouTube. The Santita Jackson Show over on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Over here, like and share. I love you. Will and Chapearl and Susan. This is my Susan, my soror from Howard. Let me know, girl. I love you. And I need to speak with you because I have heard something. I think you've lost a family member, and I want you to know I love you. I love you, girl. I love my Susan. I love you. I love you, everybody.
Woo, love you.